Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a nice day so far. I'm excited to do some painting this afternoon. I just have to grab a little bit more paint for a few of my colors. I'm going to do that real quick as we're getting started. Oops. Let me... This turned on. I think we're good. So today is Monday, March 17th. I'm getting back in the studio after not painting very much over the weekend. It feels good to be getting close to finishing this painting. I've been contemplating a few of the next steps for this painting a lot over the last 24 hours, and I think I've brainstormed a couple of ideas that I want to try out this week, which I'll talk about at some point today. But right now, I think the first thing to do is work on maybe getting more of the windows architecture figured out, maybe going back into some of the paneling here, stuff that maybe doesn't require a whole lot of imagination and I can just really tap into the painting process. So that's what I'm going to start out with today. I've been painting already for a little while today. I was working on another one of my eggshell paintings. I'm up to 21 finished little eggshell paintings, so that feels really good to be making progress on that challenge. And I decided to take out the palette video, at least for today. I wanted to share a larger view of the painting, kind of gotten away from sharing more of the surface area of the painting. I might adjust the camera here just really quickly, just so it's not as far in my line of sight here. Let's see if that'll work. I don't want to bump my phone. There we go. Okay, so I think what I might try to do is go in and either work on the frame of the window or possibly in some of the ground plane and get that figured out. This window is still an area that I need to reevaluate. The palette in that part of the painting feels a little too dark still. And it's hard when I don't have a clear idea of what I want that part of the painting to be. And sometimes those are moments where, I kind of decide, okay, I'll come back. I'll approach that part of the painting at a different point once I have, something else resolved. I'm not planning to work on my main portrait today. I'm going to keep letting this part of the painting dry. So yeah, let's go ahead and go in with the dark color of the frame of our window and start there. And see what happens. Let's grab some medium. Now that I don't have my palette on screen, as I'm calling out the colors that I'm mixing, it might not even really be something to worry about. So I apologize if you were hoping to see my palette today, but we're trying out something different. Oops. Hello, Panda TYM. How's it going? Hope you're having a nice day. Thanks for checking out my live stream. need to use my maul stick for this part of the process. I don't want to screw up anything at this point. I'm just kind of making up some of these color choices here for the window framing. For a while there, I was considering maybe I'll try to make it look like it's a white frame. But I think I'm happier with this more significant contrast in the painting, so we'll keep going with this darker blue color. I'm tempted to grab a ruler and a pencil and just like make a really straight line here and then paint between the lines. So actually I think I'm going to do that. Grab a ruler. Find a pencil. I don't even know how all this is going to show up, but it's going to be helpful if it does show up, so we're going to keep going. You know, and some people might be like, well, why don't you just use tape? And it's not a bad idea, I don't really use a lot of masking in my process these days, so it would really stand out, I think, not only in this painting, but, you know, in comparison to most of my other work. So we're just going to go in with pencil and create some guidelines. So the idea is that I'll try to paint right up to the edge of these graphite lines. And hopefully, not that you can even see them, but hopefully they don't look too skewed. All right, let's grab our maul stick again. microphone just for a moment here while I change the angle of my camera. So I apologize for some of the loud noise. Now we're going to try the same thing for the verticals here. Okay, I have to take a little break. Instead of ending the stream, I'm just going to leave it up for the time being. But I'll probably be back in 4 or 5 minutes, just so folks know if you're watching the recording, you can just kind of skip ahead. And if you're watching live, feel free to, check out for a little while and come back. But I will be back in hopefully like 4 or 5 minutes. I gotta go check on my dog and grab a snack, so I'll be back. Actually, might as well switch screens here.
10 miles away. Or click the screen now to download the Pick and Save app to save big today. Pick and Save, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details. There's a new class of blockbuster drugs. Drugs that prevent it. They change your body, and all of a sudden, just the weight starts falling off. Or things, they just got too expensive. They're just bank breakers. And industries
can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a hamburger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Cost availability varies by region. See offer.
There's a new class of blockbuster drugs. Drugs like Ozempic. For changing bodies, and all of a sudden, just the weight starts falling off. Fortunes. They just got too expensive. They're just bank breakers. And industries. From the journal, $1 Trillion Shot. Tap now to listen on Spotify.
I'm going to be back in a few minutes. I'm just going to let my dog outside again one more time. But I'll probably end up ending the stream here in the next 15 minutes or so, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But just so people know, trying to keep today's session closer to 2 hours. But I'm happy with the way things are going, especially like down in this area. I think there were some interesting additions today that bring up a little bit more intensity and just kind of strangeness in the painting, which is something that I definitely want to try to keep. I've been talking a lot about this window interior space, and that's something that I also still want to try to maybe experiment with a little bit today. So I might paint longer than 15 minutes. We'll see after I come back from letting my dog outside. But I'm really happy with everything that changed in this area too. I'll probably do at least one more layer of hair on the back. I just want to make it feel more sort of like dense in terms of that texture. But I do like how varied the mark making is, while not like creating too extreme of a color or value contrast. So I am happy about that aspect of the hair texture on the back. I think it's good that I painted in the frame part of the window today. I think it really needed to feel a little bit more complete. But yeah, I mean, I'm really satisfied with the direction of that middle portrait figure. It's feeling a lot more stable in the painting. And I think the relationship that it has inside of the wall and in this weird kind of limbo space, I feel like it's more believable to me. I kind of buy into the idea a lot more than I was prior. So I think this little tiny cast shadow is doing quite a bit for that relationship of the body in the painting. And then also putting in a more of a high contrast of warm color on the framing of the wall. I think that also is doing quite a bit. That orange to purple relationship is really satisfying too. So I'll have to experiment with that a little bit in other areas potentially. This little sliver of space on the right side of the window is something that I liked initially, and now it's starting to feel a little bit out of place. So I wonder if maybe that's something that I should just paint over and just forget about that plane. But, if it's going to be sort of like inside of the framing of the window, that should definitely have a lot more information. I like what I ended up doing in this part of the window where I created this like cavity of space. I don't know if that's something I would want to do on this vertical side of the window, but maybe hide in some other information that feels out of place, but is painted in a way that makes sense for the logic of the whole painting. But and then the other thing that I'm really pleased with is this bottom section of texture on the siding there. I think that's coming along really nicely. I still want to go over the very bottom like lip of each board and put a thin bit of texture and thicker impasto paint. Kind of like, it's probably really hard to see, but this corner of that red triangle it has quite a bit of texture. I wonder if I move the panel around, if you'll be able to see it a little bit better. You can kind of get a sense of what I mean when I hold it like this. Compared to the surrounding area, it's quite a bit more textured and thick with paint. So that type of height of material is something I want to bring into that bottom lip of each panel, just to make it feel like it's sort of curving towards us in space for each of those planes. But yeah, I think it's going okay. I wish I had like a concept for this interior space here. You know, for the longest time, I've enjoyed the idea of maybe having a third body or figure in the painting, and now I'm starting to question that idea a little bit more and wonder if that's the best approach. So we'll see. I really hate the color properties though in that part of the painting. I think it really is distracting, and it's making it harder for me to figure out what to do because this color matches this front wall so easily that it doesn't feel like it's this distant interior space. It feels like it's part of this front foreground. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let my dog outside, and then I'll come back and I'll work a little bit longer today. So be back. Hey Vicky, how's it going? I'm just reading your comment here. Thanks. Yeah, this is a kind of a new focal area that I spent quite a bit of time painting today, and I'm pretty happy with how that's starting to feel a little bit more present in the painting. And I wanted to start to round out some of the temperature contrasts and try to make the body feel a little bit more dense and physical. But I really appreciate the comment and the feedback because it's something that, you know, like a lot of areas in this painting, I'm kind of like questioning constantly if it's the right feeling or mood or sensation or, you know, sense of proportion and scale. And it's reminding me of this journey in painting and this process of making a painting where, you know, if I have a loose idea for a visual relationship, the longer I keep, you know, not playing with that part of the painting, but conversing, you know, by adding something or changing something around it or taking something away, eventually it starts to feel like its own thing in the painting. And it doesn't feel like, you know, this pre-existing thing that I'm just trying to match. And that's always really exciting in a painting where, you know, as opposed to something like this where I'm just sort of trying to convey a likeness or capture an expression or, you know, find a believable sense of volume and proportions. This is more of like an idea, and that process of bringing the idea to life and finding the full detailed version of the idea is really, really exciting. So thanks for that. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to keep painting for another probably like 15 or 20 minutes, I think, and then I'm going to sign off for today. I still want to try to get a workout session in before before the back half of the day really starts to ramp up. And my wife and I recently, like two or so weeks ago, found a used rowing machine on Facebook Marketplace, and over the last couple of weeks I've been trying to like get 3 or 4 workouts in a week. And since it's Monday, I figured why not start the week off on the right note and get a workout session in. So that's something I still have to do today. But I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a nice Monday. And again, I do really appreciate the support and the time that you're spending with this project. I mean, Vicky has been one of the most consistent viewers and supporters of this particular painting, especially on YouTube. So thank you, Vicky, for popping in again. But yeah, I'm getting really, motivated and excited about this painting. I feel like it's also, as a whole, starting to convey a sense of identity as an object, and that's been something that's kind of been, not weighing on me, but making me feel a little unsure about the future of the painting and the process. And I think when we make self-portraits, they come with a lot of extra baggage in trying to represent something so personal to us. So we'll see where it ends up, but it looks like a nice day from inside. I know it's crazy. I feel like, at least right now here in Grafton, it's not super windy, it seems like, but earlier today I could see a lot of leaves blowing around in our yard through like our basement windows. But it's nice that it is so sunny. I'm glad you got to enjoy some of the weather today and get outside for a walk. That's really nice. What else was I just about to say? I'm kind of forgetting my other comment. The other thing I was going to say is, just really quickly here, for anybody who's interested in the meaning and the sort of current conceptual understanding of this painting from my perspective, I'm thinking, and I've been talking a little bit about incorporating some natural, organic kind of plant elements or symbols. And over the last couple of days, I've been contemplating the idea of incorporating moments of invasive species and plants. And I had this sort of visual idea a while ago of having flowers or some sort of plants in the foreground of the exterior space, like behind the shadow here of this wall. And that was sort of what kind of kicked off this whole like plant idea. And then that was something that I started to imagine, like maybe the hand in the main portrait here is holding a type of plant or the roots of a plant, or it's I like this idea of maybe we're seeing the evidence of an action or an idea of removing something that is invasive. And I like that, the like metaphorical potential of that idea. And so I was recently researching different invasive species of plants in Wisconsin, and one of the first examples that came up in a couple of lists that I found were a few different types of thistles. And it reminded me of some of the summer chores that I had as a kid growing up in southeast Wisconsin on our little hobby farm that my mom owned. And in the summers for a couple of years, she would pay us like 5 cents per thistle like head. And I was looking through these lists, and all of a sudden that memory came back to me. And then I was like, okay, which type of thistle did we, have to try to combat in our front yard, in our like front pasture? And I believe the type of thistle is a musk thistle, which is like ironically perfect for the painting, because in one of the earliest live streams after I started working on the window part of the painting, I talked briefly about the palette being very warm and very red, and I liked that symbolism politically speaking, like living in a very like red controlled country right now, and for the next 4 years at least, is a scary thought. And part of the troubling sense of chaos or lack of control, all of those visual cues, when I look at the painting, like circle me back to that sort of present political climate that we are living in right now, where there's a lot of fears that I have around our environment, around the future of social groups of people, and just that instability of the future. It definitely feels current for me. And when I saw the musk thistle plant, I thought this is perfect. I believe it's the same species of thistles that we had on our property, so it also works in like the personal sense, but I like that it adds another layer of symbolism into the painting. So I'm thinking I want to do a few like digital sort of concept sketches over the image of my painting before I start working that into the painting. But I'm going to do some research on what the roots of those plants look like and see if they're visually striking or interesting enough to incorporate here, or maybe it'll just be like an actual thistle plant that I'll be holding in my hand. Maybe it'll be upside down, but the head of the thistle plant it's such a gorgeous form and color and shape. So I think just like visually it'll be a really striking image. So that's kind of where I'm currently sitting with this part of the painting. And then I'm still planning on building out a custom frame for this that could incorporate some three-dimensional space. And maybe there's something with the thistle that I could elaborate on, or maybe there's a second type of plant that I might want to incorporate into the conversation of the painting. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just going back and checking out the comment here. Yeah, that makes sense. I suppose if you're in between different bluffs, that sort of is like channeling some of the wind. I would think the same thing. I'd be like, all right, that blocks out some of those really strong winds that would be coming through central Wisconsin. So I'm assuming you must be pretty close to Devil's Lake then. I think probably, right, Vicky? But it's a beautiful area for sure. But anyway, yeah, I think I'm just kind of like looking at the canvas, wondering if there's anything else that I want to try to do today. Sometimes I feel like when I don't have like, oh, cool, you're 10 minutes from Devil's Lake. Yeah, that's a really beautiful area. I need to get back out there and do some hiking. Maybe this spring or summer we'll get to go back over there and do some hiking. But I was just gonna say, when I'm at a point in a painting session like this where it's like, okay, I have some time, I could start, messing with another area of the painting. There have been so many times that I've screwed up part of a painting because of that weird pause in the process where I'm like, do I take advantage of this time, or is it maybe more beneficial to just kind of pause, evaluate what I have in front of me, because then sometimes you might be looking around the surface and go, that edge is a little bit too hard, or that edge is a little bit too soft, or this shape or this color is not right. But I'm not finding any moments like that right now. I think the only thing that I might try to do before I sign off is carry over some of these really saturated cadmium colors over to the right side, just to unify that ground plane. So I think that's the last thing I'll probably do today. But it's been a nice session. It's just been really calm and peaceful, and I'm glad I I'm glad I worked on this today. Oh, cool. You're awesome. I was wondering if maybe you were considering making a self-portrait for this show. That's really awesome to hear. I'm glad. I mean, it seems like there's quite a few people that I know who are submitting pieces. So I hope everybody's self-portraits make it in the show, and it'd be fun to go and see the work in person once it's all up. Um, Either way, I feel like, there are some shows where it can be a little too, in my experience for me, it's like sometimes there's shows where I'm like, all right, I'm letting this show put too much pressure on whatever work I'm currently completing to enter this, X show, whatever it is. And then there's shows like this one where it's like, even if I didn't submit this painting, I'm happy that I spent the time making this painting. Like, I feel like it doesn't just fulfill this goal of submitting something to the call for the Cedarburg show. I think it was perfectly timed in that I think I was just hitting a moment where I wanted to slow down and really reflect on where my life is currently at, and try to make sense of a couple of different things through painting and through this visual language. And I think also by opening up my process in my studio for YouTube, you know, members of this community here on YouTube, I think also is giving me a lot of encouragement and support, and it's inspiring and motivating, for me as well. So I'm really happy that this has worked out in the way that it has, and not to feel too much pressure of like, it has to be an amazing painting or I have to get it done really quickly. It's nice to just have a project where you can kind of let go of some of the stress of making paintings and to just try and enjoy the process as much as possible. And for me, I think that's been a really healthy reminder. Between this and my eggshell paintings, I feel like, I don't know, I've found a new balance to my work and my approach and my purpose as an artist currently. And it's just been a lot of fun to be able to share this with people. So I'm excited to see your painting. I think, I'm trying to remember, maybe if you had already started to post something about it. I feel like maybe I saw something, but I could just be imagining that. And this cadmium red is so much brighter than the color that is below it, so I need to be a little careful about how much of this color I want to bring in over on this side. But I think I'll at least bring it all the way to the right corner of the foreground here. Okay, cool. So yeah, maybe I was thinking of something else then, or maybe it was a different piece that I saw recently. Um, cool. So are you liking the oil paper then? It sounds like the softer effect is something that you are happy with. I know for some of the paintings I've made on oil paper, there's times where I've been like, I wish I would have done this on a panel or like a gessoed canvas panel or something. But for the most part, I do like the oil paper, especially the Stonehenge brand. I feel like theirs is a little less like pulpy. I feel like Arches sometimes has a really like pulpy surface where you almost get like little bits of paper in the paint. I feel like that's happened before. I do like Arches though. I like their watercolor paper. Yeah, I've noticed that too, where I think because it's so absorbent, it takes a while to build up like a surface that feels like paint. Like I feel like for a long time it just feels like paper. Um, have you tried gessoing the oil paper? I know that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit, but I I really like painting on paper, whether it's gessoed or not. It's nice to have a very flat, smooth surface to start out with. It's kind of like painting on a masonite panel, I guess, but I feel like with paper it's a little bit more flexible in terms of how you can frame or finish the work. But I also like working on gessoed paper too. For the longest time, I would buy Strathmore River Point paper. I feel like maybe we've talked about this on the live stream before, but in case we haven't, when I was in school, we used to get free sheets of their River Point paper when it was still sort of being developed by the paper making program at Stevens Point. And in some of my painting classes, we would gesso the paper and work on that. And that was a really nice sort of hybrid between drawing and painting. And I still do that occasionally for paintings. But any kind of like heavy printmaking drawing paper usually works really well with a primer like acrylic gesso, because it's heavy enough to be able to hold enough of that like weight of the gesso or the water without buckling too much. Well, that's good. I mean, I think it's good if you have a process with materials that offers different benefits, whether it's like I like the surface quality or the size, or I like the texture of this material, but then what you're talking about I think is also really interesting too, where it's like I like that it creates a challenge, and I like that it doesn't feel as maybe conducive as a different type of substrate or gessoed ground, and that might create a totally different effect, which I think is really cool. Just to keep that like open-minded approach with your process, I think is really awesome. It's really incredible when we think about like how much of the creative process really revolves around the materials that we work with and the properties of those materials, whether they're creating challenges or streamlining parts of our process. It makes a big difference either way in what we do with our work, which I think is really interesting. I feel like I've talked about this before too on the live stream too, like this idea that for me, like if I really want a certain type of tool or color or substrate, and I'm really interested in trying some new tool, I feel like if I just try to achieve a similar effect with what I already have, that tends to be a lot more rewarding in the end than if I just go out and buy that tool right away. And when I look back on being a student and being in and out of school and having different amounts of supplies, I feel like there have been times where I didn't have the best type of oil paint, or I didn't have the best brushes, or I didn't have the tools to make my own canvases. And those limitations, people say this all the time, it's like sometimes that's what opens up a certain door in our process that becomes really rewarding and informative. But it's definitely easy for me also to like just want to try new things and like go out and buy a different tool and see how that changes my process. I think it's definitely another type of balance that we all have to navigate in our own studios. But I've become a lot more aware of that aspect to my process recently in the last couple of years. Okay, I think I'm just trying to look at this area and go, are there any moments that I would not want to see when I come back and work on this the next time? Because once it's there, it's going to start to dry, and it'll be really hard to change without just repainting the whole area. But I think for the most part, it's working in the direction that I'm hoping for. Maybe some of this can be a little less patterned. But I think this is where I'm going to sign off. It sounds like Megan just got home, and maybe we'll go for a short walk with the dog before the sun starts to set in a few hours. And I hope everyone who tuned in today enjoyed watching part of my process. Thank you, Vicky, for saying hello and engaging with the chat today. I really appreciate that. But for everyone else, if you're watching the recording or if you're watching this live, please make sure to pop back in when you have time in the future and see the progress on this painting as I continue to work on it. So I think that's it for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, Vicky, and hope to see you in the next live stream, which could be tomorrow. It's likely that I'll probably try to work as many days out of the week as I can, just because I only have a few weeks to finish this painting, and I have to work on the frame and figure out this sort of bottom sculptural portion of the idea. So lots to do. Thank you again, everyone, and I'll see you in the next session, I guess. So goodbye. Take care.